Hello, it's the AUS Rugby scene on 8-9 Rugby, and in the guest chair for the latest episode of the new Aussie Focus show, TV's Michael Atkinson. Hello, welcome. Happy New Year to you, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you? Great to be back on the pod. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
And I've been texting you constantly, asking when you're going to have me back and why have you been freezing me out. And finally, you've relented.
Yeah, no, your people maintain a strong and unrelenting campaign. And so we figured, no, let's get him early before the inevitable burnout in about May, June, when you realise that you're just doing too much.
It could come in March, to be honest.
It could come in March. And look, massive congratulations to start with, mate. You know we're proud of our pod kids, and we want to celebrate when they do well. So landing a role for Weekend Today on the Nine Network in Australia, I mean, it's massive. Are you enjoying it so far? How are you juggling rugby and breakfast TV?
Yeah, I'm absolutely loving it, mate. To be perfectly honest, a couple of months ago, I was asked if I wanted to fill in over summer, and I was happy to, as a bit of a different experience, try something new, but not because I had ambitions or eyes for the role. And I was even asked before Clint Stenway, the former host, announced his decision to walk away from Nine. And then when I started doing it, just before I started doing it, and that news about Clint was out there, people were like, "Oh, would you?" Not people making decisions, just friends, colleagues.
Yeah.
Would you be interested? Do you want to do it? Would you like to take over from Clint? And I was like, not really. And people think you're lying in this industry when you sort of say no to something like that. But the truth was, like, I love doing the rugby, and more specifically, or more generally, I love doing live sport. And that's always been my ambition, is to cover the biggest live sporting events. So I was sort of like, nah, like, I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but I did. It kind of bored me from the outside, just from an outsider's perspective. That show, I was, and that was a very naive view because I'd never done it before.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know if I could. My experience of doing in studio sort of news shows is my time up in Queensland with Nine Queensland, reading sport on weekends, which is auto cue, 4 minutes of sort of scripted space and that sort of thing. And I like the fluidity of live TV on sport. So I'm rambling, but I wasn't interested, and then I started doing it and was like, actually, this is really
good,
quite cool. Yeah, it's enjoyable. It's a challenge. It's a completely different skill set. And yes, there's auto cue and there's scripting, but that's more a guide than a hard and fast rule. So no, I'm loving it, mate, and I'm very fortunate that the bosses have found a way for it to work with rugby. It has meant Berkey's had to step up and host a little bit more of Super Rugby, but I think he's really enjoying that. And the times when I have to do both, I just suck it up and remind myself that I've got the best job in the world. So I'm pretty lucky, and I'm really enjoying it, mate.
That's it. Yeah, there's times where we think we're having rough days, and then we remind ourselves that we're working in sport for a living, and
exactly.
Sympathy sort of dies off a bit, doesn't it? So, a quick explainer then of 8-9 Rugby in 2026. This is obviously the next evolution of the 8-9 combo. Harry's departure means the combo has made way for a whole host of guest hosts each week, and that extends to this new show as well, the AUS Rugby scene. And so thank you, mate, for climbing into the chair with me this week. I reckon we just go straight to his cheers, which continues. Yep. What are you cheering about from what jumped out at you from the rugby world this weekend just gone?
It's a little general, but I have taken on a volunteer role at my kids' junior rugby club in Sydney here, the Seaforth Raiders, shout out, as the vice president of minis, which is under sixes to under nines. And I've, like you, have been attached to club rugby and associated with club rugby in many different forms over many years, and I've always loved the dedication, passion, and commitment at that level from people who get nothing in return. And the last couple of weeks of being involved in committee meetings and watching and helping and playing my role in setting up the season, I just am blown away by the amount of work that gets done behind the scenes by people who get nothing, literally nothing in return other than the enjoyment of helping their club basically operate for a year. Like it's really special at a grassroots level of sport to see the amount of unpaid effort that goes into, getting it up and running.
And look at you, man of the people. Always said that to me, mate.
Oh, mate, I've got, you like working in TV, you have an element of imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
And my imposter syndrome in the world of volunteer administrator is far greater than my imposter syndrome in TV.
Yeah. And you get that stuck in that situation where you go, I really don't know what I'm doing here.
No idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. I like that. I'm going to go on field, and I'm going to give a bit of a nod to Andy Muirhead, the Brumbies fullback. And Laurie Fisher said last year during an ABC radio call down here in Canberra, he referred to Andy Muirhead as the glue that holds the Brumbies together. And he's just been so instrumental to their start this year. He was very good against the Force in round one, but just absolutely extraordinary in that win over the Crusaders in Christchurch, which we'll absolutely get into very shortly. So well played, Andy Muirhead. How
is he not a Wallaby? Rhetorical question, because that'll take up a whole episode. But I played a bit of invitational sevens with Andy Muirhead 12 years ago, maybe a bit over a decade. And I'm not going to say he was playing for Souths at the time. And I'm not going to say I was like, this bloke's destined for anything, but he was clearly a cut above. But the main thing was, you play sevens tournaments, it's a whole day or a whole weekend you spend with each other. And he was just awesome to be around.
Yeah. Great guy. Really good guy. The great rugby chats will continue in just a second after you all hit the red subscribe button down there on the bottom if you're on the YouTube channel, or if you're on the pod platforms, hit subscribe, hit like, hit follow, whatever you need to do to make sure that you don't miss any of this all throughout the season. Round two, some really interesting results in there. The Hurricanes started their season in pretty decent form, running up 50 against Moana. The Waratahs were obviously very, very good, beating the Drua pretty comfortably. The Chiefs Highlanders was another sneaky beauty down there in Dunedin. The Blues got it done over in Perth. And then the aforementioned Brumbies 50 beat Crusaders 24. At what point in that game, mate, did you think they're going to win this? How late in the game are we talking?
When Corey Toole scored.
Yeah, right.
Like I just had nervousness, mate, and I think a lot of not just Brumbies fans, Australian rugby fans felt that way. Obviously history's against them, all of that stuff. I just felt like they're playing really well, but all it takes is one Crusaders try and then get on a roll.
Yeah, there's been so many different variations of the same thing, but I think everyone was in exactly the same boat. They could win it, but where's the comeback? When are they going to come? Where's it going to come from? How are they going to do this? How are they going to win this game? And then, they what was it? 30 odd points in the last 25 minutes, 19 in the last 7 or 8. Like, you just don't see the Crusaders get blown away in games. And maybe that was the most surprising element to this.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's not like they are the Crusaders of 2 years ago. They could go on to be, it's only 2 rounds into the season, but they're coming off a season where they won the championship. And yes, they lost to the Highlanders in round 1, but that was, a last minute penalty that lost them that game. And on the road in Dunedin, they don't get blown away. They rarely get beaten at home. And they weren't that bad. It wasn't.
No, they weren't bad at all.
I didn't think they played poorly necessarily. No. It's not like former England players who are claiming that Ireland did nothing to win that game. England did everything to lose that game in the Six Nations. I didn't think the Crusaders were poor.
No,
I just thought the Brumbies were absolutely outstandanding. But I did have that nervousness, as we discussed.
Yeah, and it's spot on. I mean that was the 79th minute too. So when Rob Valentini scored a few minutes earlier, I was thinking, I think they're going to win this.
I mean, that probably put it beyond the
yeah.
doubt of still mathematically possible. But I don't know. Like as I said, it's just years of heartbreak hopes being dashed.
We know how this is going to end. Yeah. Like it was still 31-24 into the last 10 minutes. So it was still within arm's reach. So yeah, it was
and
very.
A couple of missed penalties from not penalties, conversions from Edmed, and not to put a critical light on him. Like when that happens, it's just those little extra points that can be additional pressure or additional sort of like that one bridge too far. I was like, oh
yeah. Ryan Lonergan missed one before halftime. And then again in the second half, and then Tane Edmed came on and he missed one as well. But that the win was, I don't think we actually got a full idea on TV of how strong that win was. And talking to the Brumbies guys this week, and Stephen Larkham has mentioned as well that it was strong enough that they on the day had to think about their tactics a bit and their strategy a bit, and so they were expecting a lot more. Contestable kicking from the Crusaders, and they were actually surprised to not get it. Which is interesting in itself. It's just an extraordinary win, and I feel like I've been saying the same thing for about 4 days now, and I've certainly written it a few times. In the grand scheme of things, like how would you love to see a win like that set up a season? Like, And is there a way that can flow on to the other Australian teams? Like, how can everyone get a bit of confidence out of that?
Oh, I think it certainly shows that the challenge of going to New Zealand is not as great as it used to be. And I think that's changed with a few different results over the last couple of years. You know, the Brumbies beat the Blues last year in Auckland for the first time in a long time. The Reds beat the Highlanders in Dunedin last year for the first time in 12 years.
Yeah.
I think the year before that, the Reds beat the Crusaders
in Christchurch as well. Yeah,
since '99, maybe.
I think you're right.
So I mean, there's a few in there that have sort of started to chip away at what was maybe previously seen as a bit of an insurmountable task. But I think referencing the style with which the Brumbies beat the Crusaders, which we mentioned before, I think that really does make the other Australian teams go, what these guys are, they're human, you know. I'm not going to say anything like, I'm not going to go as deep as, you know, baiting New Zealand to say that New Zealand rugby's lost any aura. I don't think that's the case at all. I just think that, but I do think this makes the rest of Australia, particularly the Reds and the Tars, go, you know what, we might be able to go over there and rack up one or two important wins that can really set up your season.
That's got to be it, because Super Rugby's always been a competition where, you know, home ground advantage is definite and means something, but you can set up your season with your away wins, really. So a win like that is just enormous. The Tars were really good, generally speaking. Had to win very differently over the Drua, didn't they, than the way they won over Queensland the week before?
Yeah, I think so. I think the ominous thing for the rest of the competition, or whoever comes up against them next, is that they put on 36 points second week in a row, 2 bonus point wins. And yes, they've played the Drua, who we know aren't great travellers in this competition. But Dan McKellar was quite filthy after the game.
Yes,
they left. I think he said to Justin Harrison in the post-match on Stan Sport that he felt they left 30 points on the park. And he did reference at halftime in an interview. I think he said that he felt they had just been one pass. A few times they'd been one pass away from really opening up that game, and it continued in the second half. There was just one pass that didn't stick or went to ground or didn't make it or didn't get thrown. So I mean, if they can put on bonus point wins even when they're leaving 30 points on the park, you just feel like if it clicks at some point, they could be in for a big year.
Yeah, and that's actually the thing. The Brumbies would be saying the same thing, that, you know, their first half in Perth, they had no ball at all. Their first half in Christchurch, they had all the ball and all the territory, but couldn't get any pay. And that was a nod to the Crusaders' defence. So it's funny. We're all saying, well, this is a fantastic start, but I think there's a definite acknowledgement there that like both teams are a bit off their best.
Yeah, I would say so. The interesting thing about the Brumbies is in the 2 weeks already in this competition, in that last quarter, they have absolutely obliterated their competition. So maybe that's fitness, maybe it's time combinations need to just sort of click. It's early in the season, that sort of thing. But that's a pretty scary prospect, that if they could make it click from, even 20 minutes into the game, what they are capable of. I probably worry a little bit. For the Force, referencing the Brumbies taking on the Force, because while the Brumbies were great in the last quarter, I think we've seen from the Force in the first 2 games that there's some problems there. So I reckon the Brumbies Crusaders game is a better reflection of the Brumbies. If that makes sense, than the Force Crusaders than the Force Brumbies game. Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty promising, and not getting too ahead of ourselves as Australian rugby fans, whether it doesn't matter which state or province you support. It's pretty promising that our most successful franchise and our biggest market, being the Waratahs, have started the season strongly.
What you've seen plenty of the Waratahs up close there in Sydney the last couple of years. Is there anything that you're seeing different about them on the field to what you've seen in recent years? Is there anything that you're seeing? Well, we weren't seeing that last year.
I think what McKellar and co have done is weed out some potentially bad apples. And I hope that doesn't sound inflammatory. I'm not trying to suggest that anyone that was there that isn't there is a bad bloke or a poor teammate. But I think, did McKellar say it last year that he wanted blokes who wanted to wear the jersey, weren't just happy to wear a tracksuit? He said, I think he said, and like that pretty much says like he wants to get rid of guys who are just happy to be there rather than wanting to work and wanting to get better. And what I've seen in the first 2 games is a team that's willing to work incredibly hard and work incredibly hard for each other. So I think that's the basis of any really strong sporting team, sporting organisation, is the willingness to put in the hard work and then trust that it will turn into results. We've seen that in the first 2 weeks. That's the slight difference, I think. And then you sprinkle in some absolute magic from Max Jorgensen. But I think as much as we get excited about Jorgo and he captures the limelight, I think Matt Phillip might go down as the best sign. He potentially could go down as the best signing in 2026.
Yeah,
he's been amazing in the first 2 weeks.
He just gets in there and does the unnoticeable stuff. Is probably the way to call it. And he just does. He does so much of it. I certainly heard Hoops waxing lyrical on the Monday show, which was a good shout. How do we keep a lid on such a great Australian start? It's a bit hard not to. It's a bit hard to sort of contain it at times.
It is very hard to contain it at times. I think there'll be a time this season, and it might be this weekend, where a reality check is served up a little bit. I mean, the Tars have got a bye, but the Brumbies are at home again against the Blues, which will be a tough game. The Blues were really good against the Force, especially in that second half when they knew they had the running with the win behind them. The Reds, I know there's not exactly people crowing about the Reds at the moment because they lost the first game to the Tars, but if they lose this one to the Highlanders this weekend, and I think they'll win, but if they lose it to the Highlanders, I think that gives everyone a bit of a reality check a little bit, just sort of simmers things. Yeah. But mate, I will ride those highs as often as I can. As long as I can.
Well, it's actually been interesting, even listening to a couple of New Zealand podcasts and reading a couple of articles from there. Where in the past, I think the commentary about the Australian teams was sort of framed in a, they caught our guys on a bad day, or it was a rough. The commentary certainly around Brumbies beating the Crusaders was they were just excellent. So it's, like it feels like there's a good acknowledgement coming from the New Zealand side of the commentary as well.
Yeah, I think that's a change because, as you say, normally it's like, oh, like credit to the Brumbies or whomever it was.
Yeah, yeah.
But our
don't
guys
take anything away from it. But geez, they weren't great, were they?
The Crusaders weren't great today.
Yeah.
So that is a change, and there is a bit of a strange swell happening in New Zealand rugby at the moment. With I think it stems down from the All Blacks and the Scott Robertson situation. And I'm not saying that fish rot from the head or that there's going to be this complete change in the incredible history of success the All Blacks have had, but there is a little bit of uncertainty, I think, maybe amongst New Zealand pundits and fans about and about the dominance,
and because there's so much change organisationally as well within New Zealand rugby.
Yeah,
they've got an interim CEO in there. They've had they've just this week Chris Lendrum has been their long-term head of high performance has stood down as well. So as much change as there has been on field, there's a bit of uncertainty around the back end of it as well. So
it'll all change for us in the space of a weekend. If the Brumbies and the Reds lose this weekend, it all changes. If the Tars come back from a bye next week and they lose to the Hurricanes significantly at home, it all changes. So like I say, I'll ride the highs for as long as we've got them, but certainly not getting ahead of myself at all.
No, not at all. What are you looking forward to this weekend? Starts with Moana and the Force. That's in Auckland, I think. Then Reds Highlanders on Friday night. The Drua are back home on Saturday afternoon. Chiefs Crusaders will be an absolute belter, I've got no doubt. And then the Brumbies Blues on Saturday night back in Canberra. There's a happy feeling for the Brumbies to be finally home again. They played one of their trial games in Perth as well, so it feels like they've been away for a month basically already. And
and it's hard to pick out of that lineup, to be honest. Like even the Moana Force game it kind of piques my interest because
could be intriguing.
It's a huge opportunity for the Force for a number of reasons. Like one, stating the obvious, they're 0-2. 2, they don't travel well traditionally. 3, they, for want of a better term, they've complained about their travel schedule in the past. And I understand it is really hard for them traveling from Perth. They've got to travel more than anyone else.
Yeah.
But this year they've managed to, because all teams, as you know, will request preferences around travel and draw and schedule and that sort of stuff. And in terms of travel, I think they've been granted a lot of the requests they made. They've got Saturday night home games. They've got travel in blocks. So instead of maybe this weekend going to Moana and then back to Perth and then to Brisbane and whatever, they've got 3 games.
This is actually the first of a 3-game tour of New Zealand, essentially. Yes.
So taking those things into consideration, they really need to win on Friday against Moana, because not only do they go 0-3, but then their next 2 games are the Highlanders and the Hurricanes on the road. And Justin Harrison said on Saturday night on Stan Sport, he said they are realistically already staring down the barrel of 0-5. So this is a big challenge for the Force, for Simon Cron. Their season's more or less on the line in the next couple of weeks.
I think I wrote as much this week that it feels like a crazy thing to be saying in round 3, but this could well be a season-defining tour, if not this weekend. And I think just for their own confidence, like they would know that they have a stronger squad than they did last year, and even last year's was stronger than the years before. So they know that they're building the right things. They know they're doing the hard work. They just need to see something work for them on the field so that they can actually start building a bit of momentum, build a bit of confidence and start playing with that. So, I agree with you. It's a big one for a number of reasons. Queensland are in a funny situation because it feels like we've sort of forgotten, because of the way the Tars and the Brumbies have started, that Queensland are supposed to be the best Australian team this year.
Yeah, I know. Look, I would say that they have sort of had that expectation for the last 2 seasons as well.
Yep.
With Les Kiss when he first came in, particularly last year, because they picked up a lot of talent from the Rebels' demise. And while they haven't been bad in those last 2 seasons, they've probably finished a bit flatter and a bit more disappointing than not only their fans and their expectation, the expectation that was set, but they set for themselves, I reckon. We've kind of forgotten about them in the opening, and let's be honest, it's only been the opening fortnight because they had a bye in round 2. But I think there's a blowtorch on. Yes, there's a blowtorch on them this weekend, because not that their season would be over or anything, but I think the fact that Les Kiss is the next Wallabies coach has put a whole heap of scrutiny on that entire rugby program.
Yes,
and I still support the appointment of Les Kiss. I still think it's a good appointment. I like it, etc. But it has naturally added extra focus to the Queensland Reds. And if they go 0-2 and lose their first game at home, the questions around whether Les is the right guy, have Rugby Australia made a mistake, etc. They're not even questions about the Reds, really. They're questions about the Wallabies and Rugby Australia, but it adds so much, I guess, negative focus on the Reds.
It's an indirect focus on the Reds as a result. And you're right. And to follow, they then hit the Australian teams. They've then got the Brumbies, Waratahs, Drua to follow. So, we get a quick marker of where they are at against.
And they haven't beaten the Brums for a while. They went on a little run there.
No, and they haven't beaten them in Canberra for a while. Yeah,
I reckon back 2021 was probably the last time they beat them in Canberra.
And that massively high scoring first time in a long time. Yeah. That's right. So, I'll be interested to see what we see from them. I'll be interested to see whether the bye weekend has allowed them to get some bodies back. They suddenly had a shocking injury toll for round 1, which is always concerning. So, if they get a few of those back, and they can sort of play their way into things that will hopefully make a difference. I think they probably don't care how it looks, as long as they've got more points than the Highlanders at full time, isn't it? Just get the job done.
That's all I would care about. And in a broader conversation of Australian rugby, that's all I ever care about, to be perfectly honest. I don't care how teams win. I couldn't care if the Wallabies kicked 12 penalties and won a match. It would not bother me. No, sorry. Like when I mentioned the border of rugby, I love tries, sure, but I love winning more than I love tries. And I would just like to see Australian teams winning, because at the end of the day, that's all anyone really cares about. And I don't think they would care how they win this weekend. I certainly hope they don't care, Brett. And here's my little issue with the Reds at the moment. And I think this is a little bit of a problem in wider Australian rugby. I get the feeling the Reds want to play entertaining, and that's fine. But I worry that they sometimes do it at the expense of actually playing to win. Like, not that they want to lose, but instead of taking the option that might be a higher percentage and builds pressure and eventually turns into points, they want to go for the glory.
They're thinking about style. Yeah. I think
a little bit of a nod to that, I think, is the fact that last year they didn't take a shot at penalty goal until the last home and away game.
Yes,
I think.
Yeah,
or second last.
Kicked 2 in that game, and then didn't do it again.
Yeah,
not even in the knockout game. Yeah. Yes. That was a bit curious. What on earth are we going to get at Churchill Park in Lautoka on Saturday afternoon? Drua and the Hurricanes. I mean, they're actually becoming lottery games now, aren't they? Games in Fiji.
We've gotten very used to Fiji winning in Fiji, but they lost to Moana there in round 1. And then remember last year, you'll remember the Brumbies beat them there in round 1.
Yes.
First Australian team to do so. Only Australian team, I think, still to do so. I think they're hurting the Drua. Chatting to Tim Sampson, assistant coach last week, and before that Waratahs game, they're a proud team, and they're almost like a national team, right? So they've gone and got the whole nation of Fiji behind them. The Hurricanes are ridiculously good, but I won't be surprised if the Drua maybe shake up the competition this weekend. I'm just going to go and upset.
I think they need it as well. And look, the Canes have been in a funny situation because they've only played one game. Do they go full noise in Fiji? Suddenly they're a bit short on numbers, around 10 as well. It just could be anything. The Chiefs host the Crusaders. Crusaders will be wanting the bounce back factor. The Chiefs will be saying, not on our turf. You guys need to take a ticket and wait. This is going to be our week, I think. And the Chiefs have been quietly, I think, because all the headlines have sort of been around the Brumbies and Waratahs. The Chiefs have just been doing their bit in the background, and they're every bit as strong as they've always been.
Yeah, I mean, they're a ridiculous team to be able to play the way they have in the first 2 weeks, and they're 2-0, right? They beat the Blues in week 1, which was contentious because of the Tupavai try that Super Rugby came out and said wasn't a try.
Yep.
But they've done all of this without Damien McKenzie, who we know at Super Rugby level at least is almost a cheat code. And he's not been there because of the birth of his first child. So the fact they've done it without DMAC is really impressive. Interestingly, the Chiefs put out their press release via email about their team list for this weekend, and in the title they misspelled Crusaders. They called them the Crusaders, so instead of CRU it was CURS. Now I don't know if that was a Freudian slip because of the curse of them playing in finals, and we know the last 3 years they've lost the grand final 2 of those times has been against the Crusaders. Maybe it is a Crusader type thing. I'm not sure if they're trying to just cut things off at the head.
They have to.
But I like to read into things like that. I'd not
noticed that before, but you're right. They did too.
Yeah, I'm sure it was just like a genuine spelling mistake.
That's genuine typo, but I love the implications behind it.
But I think they will be too good for the Crusaders, and I think the Crusaders will be 0-3 to start the season.
Yeah,
and the pressure that will then mount on Rob Penny will be significant. And it's crazy to think that because he's a championship winning coach. But if you think to 12 months ago when he'd come off that, his first season of missing the finals, he was under a huge amount of pressure.
There's your narrative for this weekend. Momentum and Freudian slip typos. Brumbies Blues Saturday night. I mean, it's going to be intriguing for so many reasons, I think. Not least that they finally get to play a home game.
Yeah, I think it's very intriguing because the Blues were under the pump on Saturday up till half time. But it's kind of hard to get a read on them from that first 40 because of the way they then came out and played the second 40. And it was almost like they knew they had the wind in the second half, so they just did what they could to just keep the game on an even keel and not have to be chasing too hard at halftime. And they ended up being 17-14 down at halftime. I think.
17-13. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
17-13. And it felt like they were like, all right,
17-14. You're right. Sorry,
17-14. Sorry. They were like, all right, we're in touching distance, and we know now we've got the wind behind us, and that's because it was blowing a gale there too, much like in Christchurch the next day, and I think they felt like that was a 20-30 point wind behind them. So it was hard to get a read on their entire 80 minutes, but it's also hard to get a read playing the Force because we're not really sure where the Force are at. I think the Brumbies will be. I think the Brumbies will be too good at home because, as well as anyone, even if only a couple of men and women and their dogs show up at GIO Stadium, they still love playing there. And
they get a kick out of it for sure.
Yeah, they do. And I just think like that win in Christchurch is just going to do wonders for their confidence and their belief.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I made the point on Sunday night that that Canberra just needs to get to the rugby this weekend, because they after a win like that and the way they've been playing this year, but years previous, they've reached the semi-final for the last 4 straight years. They deserve to be playing in bigger crowds than they are. So Canberra sporting fans, never mind rugby fans, just need to get to the rugby this weekend. It's going to be warm. It's going to be great. Just get to the rugby.
I don't know if we have time to delve into that conundrum, but just very curious as a Canberran, why you think that is. Because whenever I talk to Bernie Larkham, he's like, even Larkham's like, I'm not sure. I know the world's different, but when we played in front of 25 or what have you there, and people go, the conditions aren't great, the stadium's too far away, but the Raiders
are still getting
crowd.
15, 16,000. Exactly right. Yeah, I don't know, and I can't work it out either, because everything that rugby fans and sports fans in Canberra have said they want of the Brumbies for the last 10 years, they've done. They have played more home games. They have played more. They have won more games. They've played home finals. They've scored more tries. They've scored more tries than any team in the competition often. Hasn't made a lick of difference to the crowd.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I don't understand. And I'd love this year be the year that the trend flips and they actually start playing in front of the crowds that they deserve to be playing in front of.
We might have to get you out sign shaking on the street.
Domino's pizza style, is that what you're suggesting?
You can spin it around and do all that tricky stuff, can't you?
Maybe. I feel like there might be corporate training for that sort of thing. I don't know.
I'm sure if we Google it, we could find it.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. Mate, been great to catch up. Good to get you on early, because I know that your people are going to lock you up later in the year, and it's going to be impossible to get to you. So just really, really appreciate that you've been able to give us some time in your heavy schedule. It's a magnificent thing what you're doing, and just wish you nothing but the best. But I just hope we catch every now and again. I remember you when you were a rugby guy, mate. So,
You know what I'm surprised about, mate? I'm surprised it's taken you 37 minutes and 45 seconds to throw that joke in. You're getting slow in your old age, Brett.
No, mate. It's been a 37-minute build-up just to drop it at the end.
Timing is everything, and that was perfection, mate. Well done.
Absolutely. Good on you, mate. Great to catch up.
I always make time for the little people, Brett. I'm going to get slaughtered for that by Sean Maloney. You wait.
Absolutely. Good on you, mate. We'll catch up soon. I'll have Billy's for you this weekend.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Great to have TV's Michael Atkinson on the AUS Rugby scene on 8-9 Rugby in 2026. He's going to be awfully busy through the rugby season. So, yes, very good to get him now whilst he's still raw. And the guest co-hosts will keep rolling every week after this as well. A quick recap of the Super Rugby table, which you didn't get to. So, Brumbies and the Waratahs out on front on 10 points. The Chiefs on 8. They're still unbeaten, and everyone's forgotten about them, I think. The Hurricanes are straight up into 4th with their bonus point win last weekend. Blues Highlanders roll out the top 6. And then it's the Moana Pacifica, Crusaders, Reds, Fiji and Drua, the Force in 11th spot. So we'll see how it all plays out this weekend. There are some ripping games to go, no doubt about that. Also on 8-9 Rugby this week, South African rugby YouTube star Rian Lowe joined me to wrap up the first 3 rounds of the Six Nations and the resumption of the competitions this weekend. The Irk's back, the Premiership's back, the top 14 in France as well. So check it out on 8-9 Rugby on the YouTube and wherever you pod as well. And have you found 8-9 Rugby on Substack yet? Jeff Parks and I have been busy building up a new outlet for rugby coverage down this way, and we hope that you will join us and join in on the discussions as well, which we're having a great time doing that. So find us on Substack Subscribe now to the exclusive home of Jeff's widely read and widely regarded column, The Wrap, every Monday, plus plenty more great rugby writing for the rest of the week. Another great explainer on there on Wednesday about the players diving for tries and diving over defenders and diving over rucks and what used to be allowed and what the clarifications have fixed up now as well. So that's on the site live now and is absolutely worth getting into. That then is another great episode of the Oz Rugby scene behind us. A huge thanks to Michael Atkinson once again. It was great to catch up with him. Tell us what you think by finding 89 Rugby on the socials. You can have your say on the 89 YouTube channel right here as well, and you can find me on the socials at BMC Sport 2. This is the Oz Rugby scene on 89 Rugby, and we will be back in your ears next week.